Hi and welcome to the Career Stories podcast. My name is Joe and I'm with my colleague Carrie.
Hello.
As you know, we are both careers advisors for Skills Development Scotland, and this is episode 2 of the Career Stories podcast, where we talk to professionals about their job, what they do, how they got into the role, a little bit about any ambitions they've got for themselves as well, which is quite exciting.
It's also a really good opportunity for people to learn about different careers that they maybe don't know so much about. I'm super excited for today because it's lots of people that we speak to are so interested in working with animals, and it's one of the things that comes up really frequently. So it's amazing to be able to speak to someone who's in that field, and it can be good for people to maybe find out about things they maybe don't realise are parts of those jobs, because maybe I think people think about the glamour of things and the surface level of different jobs. To actually get to the nitty-gritty is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, so we have with us the wonderful Brittney Gill.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
So Brittney works as part of a team dedicated to caring for various species of animals at the zoo. But while many still think of zoos in a certain way, modern practice focuses more on care and conservation, which I'm sure we're going to hear more about during this conversation.
Yeah, it's not just a great day out, because I'm sure we've all been at some point. But for so many people, it's also a sanctuary for so many animals. It's great to know we've got a place like that in Scotland. How many zoos have we got? Is Edinburgh the only one?
There is other zoos, because there's like Fife Zoo, coming from Fife before.
Back to Fife.
Yeah, I'll never mention it again. No, because there's like Fife Zoo, and there's oh no, this is where I show my serious lack of you'll know where the zoos are.
It's been a month since I've been in Scotland, so I'm not the best either. Yes.
Just a month?
Yeah.
And then you've agreed to do this? How brave is that?
It's very brave.
That is very impressive.
Yes.
But I think for us as well, and I think like most people, we also want to know, how cool is that job, right? Because I think a lot of people have or do believe it is quite a cool job. So obviously we'll dive deep into that. Tell us a bit about what you do. So in your words then, I guess, right?
Sorry?
What is it you do in your words, I guess? Because I think we have introduced you there, but I'm sure your job's maybe slightly different.
So about my job? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, of course.
Yes, like you said, it's a very varied position that I'm in at the moment. So I'm at Edinburgh Zoo, which is amazing. It's an amazing zoo. It was definitely one that I was aiming to go for while I was living here. So yes, I've been in the UK 6 months total today.
Wow.
So 6 months. But yes, I only moved here about a month ago. And I work in the animal presentations team. So I'm part of the animal antics area at Edinburgh Zoo. So it's called the bird of prey in there, which is cool. We've got the alpacas, which are really cute, the goats, and we do a show as well, which is just highlighting some of those natural behaviours that we can show to you guys and bring the animals close to everyone, which everyone loves. And then I also work the sloths and the armadillos, which were 2 species I really wanted to work with. Which is, they're incredible. They're so cool.
Why do people love sloths so much? What is it about a sloth?
They're just so charismatic. They're just so sweet. And they're the face. And like when you see them up close, you're like, how are you real? And like, and they're so cute. I love them so much. So yes, I'm very, very lucky to work with them, and they're awesome. And it's just, so amazing to like learn more about all of these species and like tell people about them. Like sloths, they can move pretty quick. Everyone's like, oh, they just sleep all day. It's like, yeah, but they're actually really fast. When they want to go, they want to go. So that's amazing. And then I also do we're part of the team that do the experiences as well. So if you come to the zoo and you want to meet the penguins or the rhinos, or you want to be...
I want to come to the zoo to meet the penguins.
It's so cool. And me just like being here too, because I'm learning about them, but also for me, I'm like, I'm going to meet them too. And I get so excited. I've got to hide the excitement because I've got to be professional as well. It's an amazing team because I get to do and see so much of the zoo. It's a very, every day is so different, which is amazing. And you can do like little mini keepers, like 5 to 7-year-olds come and be a little zookeeper for a couple. It's so adorable. And then adults can do like a full day. Like it's just awesome. They provide a lot, and it's such an amazing way to educate and showcase what we are doing with the conservation and just some species that people have never heard of or seen before. And it's pretty cool. And like you said, kind of showing that we're not just zoos are moving away from like, look at this animal here now. It's actually we're why we're having them, why we do certain things like training. Everyone assumes training is like circusy or, we're training them to spin around. It's like, no, we're asking them to turn around so we can see their whole body, so we can check them, or raising their foot up so we can see if their feet are okay and things like that. And it's amazing to show that and, provide the new, how the zoos are moving to that modern standards now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's amazing. When I think about all these pupils that I meet, and there's so many people who like their dream job is working in the zoo, and so you're sitting there and you're in this dream job
great.
for them. Is it your dream job?
Yes, it was. I didn't always. It took me a little bit to get here, but it. Like you said before, like I'm from Australia and you're definitely immersed in this amazing wildlife and you're surrounded by it. And I was very lucky in my childhood. I got to move around Australia quite a lot. So when I was about 10 years old, I moved up to Darwin, so Northern Territory, Northern Australia. And instead of going to the movies, we went to a waterfall or a national park. And so I missed the whole Harry Potter phase. But I had a snake all around me, and I remember that I was about 10 or 11, and I had the snake go down my top and like around me, and I was like, I wasn't scared, but I was like, this is amazing, like this is what I want to do. And I remember then looking up like work in zoo or what is zoo like, and it came up with zoologist. I was like, okay, like I've got to go for a zoology then. So that was the dream from quite a young age, and then getting into high school. I hated high school, absolutely hated it. I did not want to be there. And our school provided, this is in Canberra, provided opportunity for like 6 weeks to go and do something. And I just wanted to get out of school. So hairdressing came up. And I was like, 6 weeks, I get to like go play with hair and like do beauty stuff. Like, okay, sure. And so that took me, I was still in school, but it was like once a week I could go out to TAFE and do that, and I actually fell in love with hairdressing. And my teacher offered me an apprenticeship, and I was like 15, 16 years old. You get bombarded with like, you should know what you want to do. And I was like, I don't know what that it is. Or like, I'm going through a lot myself right now. Like, no 15-year-old knows what they want to do. Or like some do, of course, but there's just so much happening and so much pressure on it as well. So I went into hairdressing. I decided almost animals didn't exist, and I just went into that, but I fell in love with it. It gave me a bit of purpose and guidance, which I really needed at that time. And so I went into that. I still continued into, so I finished year 11 and 12, but I was able to start my apprenticeship while doing that, which was really cool. So I could come out with a university score if I wanted to go to uni, but also an apprenticeship. And I was like, keep my options open. That's one thing my parents always said was like, keep your options open. And at the time I'm like, shut up, you don't know anything. But also they did know what they were talking about. So I did that, and I was loving hairdressing. The aim was I was going to move to England. I've always wanted to move here. And I knew that from about 15, that was like the goal. But I was going to do hairdressing. And then I was in my final year of high school and loved my biology teachers. They were amazing. And I was just, I fell back in love with it all, and I was like, this is what I actually want to do. And I was like, I don't want to do hairdressing anymore. I was like, what am I doing? But I then had my gap year and I finished my apprenticeship. So I still wanted to do that, and it's a great skill that I now have. Paid my rent during uni because I could do haircuts for cheap, so that was great. And I could do my own hair now, so that saves me money. It's great. And then I went to uni. So I got there in the end and did a Bachelor of Science majoring in zoology and agricultural science. That was kind of just a side major that happened. I was like, sure, whatever. Still very interesting. But so came out with that, and then like those subjects were looking at animal behaviour, animal nutrition, animal reproduction, which is what I really loved and wanted to follow that. And then a whole range of different things, like there's chemistry in there, there was just basic biology. So it was amazing. I loved uni. It was that contrast from high school to uni, where you're like, you hate high school because there's so many subjects and things you just don't want to do, and then you can finally focus on what you love and immerse yourself into it. I didn't get the best score either for uni, and I think that's something important to highlight, that it's okay if you don't get the score you need to. And there's so many ways to get there. That's like one thing. I've got 5 siblings and I've drilled into them, like, you don't need to get the score. It's okay if you don't have like the path that you should have. Like, yes, it's easier, of course it is, but there's 10 different paths as well, and that's totally fine.
Sounds like a careers advisor.
Thank you. it was just so important because when I was 15, like you just get bombarded and you're like, you need to know what you want to do. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And it's also okay if you change your mind too, which I ended up doing as well.
It's a good point. I think one of the things I would talk to pupils about and say to them, it's not necessarily about the end goal, it's about the first step.
Yeah.
So, trying to make sure that if you look back in years, and you've already done it here today, talking about that the right step was hairdressing for you, and you grew to love something that wasn't even in your thought process.
No.
But, that inner child of loving animals and obviously over time became, you've transitioned back into working,
Came back,
which is pretty cool. So it shows you've got that kind of range of doing what you want and keeping your options open, as your parents said.
Yeah, it is good.
Which is good. And you also mentioned that about parents, because parents are probably your main influence, right? Your main support network for a lot of people, or whoever lives at home with them. And we're just the careers advisors in school. We have limited time with them to talk about what they want to do. So, you mentioned there that as much as you felt at the time, they didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah. You look back as an adult now and you go,
like, that makes sense,
I get it.
And now I'm that for my siblings. I'm like, do this. And they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like,
just look at me. Yes. Look at what I'm doing.
It happens, yes.
How did you feel about that transition then from, although I know you still do a bit of hairdressing, but committing to the kind of animals full time, because you obviously did your qualification and then decided to go all in?
Yeah, it was, and I've had a couple of moments in my life too with my career being like, is this a waste of time for me? And now I always just sit with where I am now. I'm like, it all was all meant to happen, and all that happened for me to be right here. And I remember did I just waste time in terms of not volunteering during I could have been doing that instead of my apprenticeship or my gap year. I could have started uni earlier and do all these things earlier. It's it all worked out okay. But yes, I definitely had that battle of did I waste time, waste money and all of that. But the gap year was amazing. I fast-tracked my apprenticeship and then I moved down to Melbourne to then start uni. And I think that was a good time for me to sit, reset, understood budgeting a bit more, saved up a lot of money, working, all of those very vital skills to then set me up for later. And then another moment of that for me, because I did my research year as well. And then I really wanted to get into conservation and it just wasn't happening. I was like, is everything a waste of time? What am I doing? And then I got my first job at Melbourne Zoo after that. So, it all works out in the end. I think you've got to sit with it. It's hard. And at the time, it just feels like everything's awful and it's not going to work out, but it does. And everything, I think, your path to get there it's all meant to happen for a reason. Yeah.
And I suppose when we think about it, because obviously you were talking about all those things that you were studying at uni and how the bits that you found really interesting and all the different aspects of it. So I suppose when we've got young people and we're looking at university degrees with them and we're going, right, look into it, look at the different unis, what are they, what do they offer that's different, how do you choose which one you want to go to, and then taking what you've then learned there in uni and then putting that into practice. How did that feel going from uni into Melbourne Zoo?
Yeah, showed how much I didn't remember. I won't lie. But no, it was awesome being you go through all the different unis. What do they have to offer, and how would I want to apply that to then you're in the role. You're like, oh, that one lecture I remember, I'm actually applying it here, or talking about a conservation element. I'm like, oh, I can now implement that. And that, it's really a big full circle moment. And that is amazing. And for me, the end goal was always conservation. Getting that first role was amazing for me. Everything just...
You mentioned a little bit about the conservation, and that seems to be more important now, where it's not now just a plain glass window, exploiting the animals. Yeah. Obviously that's became a passion of yours. So what kind of things are you doing currently, or what is the kind of plan, I guess, for you in that role to try and help the zoo and conform, I guess, to trying to support the animals?
So previously I was working with a little native mouse species called a Peculiar, or a New Holland mouse, and the aim for that one was to essentially bring them back into captivity because the numbers were declining, and it was at the point where we need to step in, create an insurance population. So that's making sure we have genetics. So in case something happens drastically, like a bushfire or something like that, we've got genetics still, and we can then breed and then release hopefully as well. So I was part of the captive breeding program for that one, and breeding them up, and they were so cute, and they smell like the beach, and they're amazing, and we love them, and they squeak when there's babies. It was beautiful. They're the best. So we had two really successful breeding seasons, and then we're able to what's called a soft release. So have big enclosures out in the wild, and then we're still supplementing, feeding them like every second day, essentially weeding them off instead of us feeding them at 4:00 in the afternoon. Here's your corn, here's your food, you know. And there's a whole lot to it, like we're monitoring them and all of that stuff. And then we were able to do a hard release, so take the enclosures off and then release them out, which is really exciting. So we welcome them back to country after almost 50 years, which is incredible. Yeah, and that's a huge highlight for my career. That is like, that's the end goal. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to, bring them into captivity, because zoos hold such a important role for that. Where we're not just there to like, oh, look at this animal, it's great. You need zoos to have those facilities, like to be able to breed them, to monitor them, to understand those genetics. There's so many people, so many parties that work for that, and then be able to then release them. We're like, amazing, we've done that. That was the goal, but like still need to keep going, because obviously they're not up where they're not threatened or anything like that. And Zoos Victoria have done that with some species, which is incredible. They've brought them gone from like endangered to non-threatened, which is amazing, which is like, that's the goal. So that's cool. And then now being in part of the experiences team, it's spreading that word as well, which is just as important, like the education side and just talking to people about why we're doing it and what we're doing, because people love to know. Like everyone loves, again, what we're saying, like everyone knows it. We want to just know everything about everyone's job. Like I do. Like tell me everything. I just want a day of work with every single career, Like I want to be a firefighter for like just a day. What do you do? And then I want to be a nurse, like just to say everything. And so that's like, it's just as important as well as doing, the breeding and the releasing, the monitoring, all of that. The educating too, and spreading that word of like what we're doing, why we're doing it is huge. So it's great. So you're working with these species that are kind of these little flagship species, or like little mascots, being like, this is what we need to show you what's happening in the wild. Like we've brought a sloth into captivity. It was like, oh, they should be out in the wild. Like yes, of course, and that's the goal. But we can't save the wild ones without having them here to show you and teach you what they can do, what we know about them, what we don't know about them, what are their risks, why are they endangered, all of those kind of things. And then hopefully people leave the zoo and be like, oh, like I've learnt something, how can I help, what can I now do in that? And a lot of our experience that we do go directly back into conservation too, like our armadillo magic moment, where you can meet one of our little 3-banded armadillos, or a large hairy armadillo. They're great. That goes straight back into our conservation work with them in South America, which is incredible. So it's nice.
And you can tell that 50% of us is absolutely adoring. I'm loving the conversation, but you're like,
oh my God. I'm like, please let me come. When can I come to your
photos
work?
and stuff?
Oh my God,
it's the best. It's great. I love
and whereas like the only armadillo I ever saw was on Friends.
The holiday
one. So like,
oh yes.
So like, my knowledge is limited, but I'm loving it. It's so good. And you mentioned about the sharing of information and getting it out there. So are you on socials? Is that part of your remit, or are you?
So classic zoo. Everyone's like, do I start a zoo Instagram? Do I do it? I really should, because it's like, it is just another way of putting it out there, like what is there and what not. So I do have socials, but not like zoo socials. But of course, all the zoos have their social media too, which is like definitely follow all of them, because not only there's some great content, because a lot of like the keepers might send in some stuff that you might not see. Like there's one on there at the moment of them, they're cleaning one of the drills, and they're like licking the window and like trying to clean with us, and it's so cute. So like things like that is awesome, and like makes people again want to come to the zoo. If you come into the zoo, you're supporting conservation already, and it's just big full circle.
I think as well, like, what's lovely about this is that you clearly love your job so much, and I love that, because we find, like, when I'm speaking to young people and to people for careers appointments, a big thing that I'm saying to people is that go for something that you love, and obviously there's going to be days, I'm sure there are days that you cannot be bothered going into work, but it's not going to be most days when you're doing something that you love.
On those days, you're like, oh, it's still pretty good. Yeah, like, exactly. It might be for an hour, and you're like, no, it's fine. And there's, like it's so cliche, but like when you find something that you love, it's not really work. But it is, and I've definitely like been in this role, and like a lot has led to like being here. It sounds so like, oh my God, my journey. But it's definitely, I've like wow, I really do love my job, and I'm very grateful that I've had these opportunities to get me here, and like the work I'm doing is amazing. And like, I'm like, oh, we've got to clean, like you're dirty, you've got to clean, you've got to like, you're carrying stuff, you're like tired, you're in the rain, like all of those things. But then you're like, oh, but I had a really cool training session with one of the owls today, or saw cool behaviour with the sloth, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, wouldn't say that.
What would you say then? Because obviously you mentioned the dirty side of it, obviously, but what is some of the challenges, I guess, of the role that you've got, whether it is obviously practical challenges or, like challenges, caring for the animals, things that, maybe some people, if they were just to go research for the job, maybe wouldn't find? It's pretty great. It's a pretty great job. I think the main challenge that I found is getting a job. Like it is a very competitive industry, and it's very hard to get into at times. Like it took me 4 or so years to get into Melbourne Zoo. But like, again, all worth it. But so that was like the main challenge, and that's even moving here. Then I was like, oh, am I going to be able to get into somewhere? Like you feel like you're starting back again, and getting experience in certain species as well can be hard too. But it's like, just ask questions. When you're in, just ask questions, contact people. I think don't be afraid to, email people that are working within the zoo, or if you go to a zoo, grab a keeper and just be like, tell me, like ask us questions. We love you. I know our job clearly. And you just don't know how that will work and how will that end up. It can be a very physically demanding job as well. I was with elephants back in Melbourne Zoo as well. And I went from mice to elephants. I was like grams of food to kilos of food. And my body, like the first week, I was like, what have I done? Like I'm so sore. So it can be very physically demanding on you. And I think, every zookeeper's got arthritis and we're cracking and we're like broken. But again, we love it. It's fine. Like we don't care. But that going into the job too can be quite physically demanding. Just briefly going back, because I'm thinking of like you talked about school, obviously quite different education in Australia to probably our system a little bit, but not too different to the way you describe it. Most people would probably say school's tough when you're doing multiple subjects, and then obviously you had a great biology teacher. So was that a coincidence that you liked biology and the teacher, and that's why it all came together, or was it just like, was there a link there because you knew you liked animals, you picked biology because you thought maybe there might be a future in it?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. I wanted to keep everything broad, so I didn't have any subjects I had to do during high school, so there was no core, but I still chose like maths, English, science, and then PE and my apprenticeship. And so the science, what I could see was coming up in terms of the biology. They had a zoology component, and I was like, oh, I remember this word. So definitely wanted to do that. And then, had great teachers, and that just helped so much. Like, and they really tapped in to like work how I needed to learn, not just for me, but they did like a podcast essentially for us. So we could learn content in a different way, and then still like traditional teaching as well, but they were amazing in that aspect there. And yes, the way that they taught was really immersive, and I just loved it. They were amazing, and that I did really like that was my best subject. So it definitely helps. And then coming into uni, like I still had teachers I was like, I don't like you at all. You suck. No. I don't like your teaching style. And that's fine. But again, like the subjects that I did really well in, I usually had a really good teacher or a good lab tutor or something like that. So but as well, like you find your people there too, and you study with, that helps too. Even if they're not in the same subject as you, that helps too, because like you want to learn when people else are learning, and then you're all bouncing off together. You can have have those breaks, have that bit of fun, and then you enjoy it a bit more as well.
Definitely.
What would you say, like, so for us, it's about skills and developing skills. At a young age, there's certain skills that obviously, if you can develop earlier, it might make it easier for when, for example, you mentioned that maybe not achieving as well as you'd like in your university course, but clearly didn't stop you from moving on to the next step. Whereas we talk to kids who think you have to pass everything to the best exam possible, and that's what gets you in the door. Maybe not necessarily the case. So what would you say the skills that helped you get into the position that you're doing now?
I don't even know.
We like to put people on the spot. Whereas when, especially like when we're doing careers appointments, I think it's so difficult. I think it'd be easy if someone said to me right now, "What are your skills?" I would probably do this exact same as what you did. But if someone said, "Oh, what's Joe good at?" I'd be like, "Oh, he's good at this, this, and this." It's so much easier to speak nicely about other people than to yourself. So
I think being just as adaptable and as flexible as possible, that I think has helped me calm down at times, because you do get just stuck on like, this is the only path and I have to get there, and you've got this pressure, like you need the score to get into here and all of that, and it is just knowing it's okay, like it's actually okay if you don't get in. Sure, it might add another year, that it's a year in the scheme of things, that's actually no time at all with your degree or like studying, I find. So just being I think just as flexible as possible, and just having, I think, options too was really nice. Like, okay, if I don't get A, what's plan B, C, and D, E? Like, I think that's really important too, because then you can jump into them and it's actually okay. And you're not, just be so kind on yourself. You're not a failure. You haven't failed at all. Like, if you, like, I got an awful score, still got in first round, and then did a research year after that. Like, it all worked out. But you just need to be kind of like, and I remember getting that sort and bawling my eyes out, and then I had to go wash hair, and I was like, this is the doing, like, hated it. But, and it feels like the end of the world, and it's okay. And sit in that too. Like, it's okay. Sit in that and be like, yeah, I'm sad. This sucks. That's that's so valid. Like, validate your own feelings. That's totally okay. But then go, okay, what's next now? You don't need to sit in that forever, because it's not the end of the world. It's I know it feels it, but it's not going to be. And then what's next, like going into that. I
think that's such a good message as well, that bit, like, because I don't know, have you done the results helpline before?
I've not done it yet.
So I think that's something, we have a results helpline when people are getting the results in Scotland over the summer, and a huge amount of that is people just needing that reminder, be really kind to yourself. It's okay. It's, as much as it might feel like the end of the world, there's always a way past that, and there's always a way forward. And I think that you're exactly showing that. It's great. It's so fantastic. In terms of, like, obviously you're in this job now and you've not been here very long, so it seems quite quickly for me to ask this question, but have you got, like, have you got plans of where you want to go to, or is it?
Yes, loving it here. It's great. I love Edinburgh, and loving the zoo and the team. They're all been so supportive, and it's been amazing. I guess big, like, future goals. There's a few other species I would love to work with. Like, my whole aim for moving here was not only to see Europe, because it's really close compared to Australia.
Yes.
But can't get a lot of species back home too as well. Just distance again. So just trying to work with as many species as possible. Like, I worked with reindeer up down south, which was sick. That was so cool. Didn't even think that would be a thing. I want to work with as many different species as I can, different, like, I haven't done much with, like, carnivores or hoof stock, so it would be great to get experience with them. And then in terms of big goals, I would love to, like, working with the elephants. It was amazing to see how that team worked, and it was a lot of mums as well, and that was amazing to see, because I always, like, a lot of women in science, it's always the men go through, the women don't, or they won't have kids, say, and that's also totally fine, but that's just how I usually see it. And that's how I kind of assume zookeeping might be. I might have to take a real step back in my career. But there were so many, like my manager and the project manager for their massive move as well. They had kids, and it was just amazing. A lot of the team had kids, and it was amazing to see how you could do both, and that was really inspiring for me. And so that just made me flourish more and want to do more things. So I would love to be a project lead on a massive project, or start a conservation from, like, start to finish, through like maybe getting the animals in. What are we trying to achieve here? Who do we need to breed? And then moving on and releasing again. I would love to be from start to finish with a project like that as well. But But yeah, for now, just bopping around. The animals, yeah, love it.
But that's, even that's such a good point that I never thought about as a male, you know.
Classic.
No, but it's
all
a
right.
ridiculous. But it's a good point, you know, that I think a lot of people, not necessarily maybe kids thinking like that future, but you know, maybe there is a systemic thing now getting women into STEM and how tough it is, particularly for us when we're having conversations. Maybe it's not as it's not as talked about by the female.
I do have like a lot of young people who I've spoken to who have mentioned when we're having these conversations about careers, I'll often speak to people about what do you want your life to look like, great. And a big part of that is like very often girls, it's a lot of girls who say it to me, and girls will say, I want to be a mum and I want to have this career as well. And what we're trying to do is trying to encourage people to pursue that dream career, but also have that life around it that they want. Whereas maybe, you know, I don't have as many boys saying to me, they might not mention that they want kids, or they'll say they want kids, but they maybe don't always think about how that'll impact their career, because I suppose historically it is the women's career that's impacted. So the fact that you're seeing all these amazing women in these jobs who are also mums, like that's fantastic, and that's really good for people to be able to hear as well, that you can still have these both. I think that's fantastic.
You can absolutely.
I love it. I mean, let's be honest, we probably could talk about animals all day here.
I know. I'm like, when you said about reindeers, I'm like, did you know that they do the clicking? I know they click.
It's so weird.
Still freaks me out a bit. I love it.
Other than that, and polar bears, like I must admit, Australia won't see many snow that much, will it?
No, definitely not the same snow as here. Yes, no.
Doesn't last long.
No.
Here sometimes I feel it lasts forever.
But I know it's that thing, I think, when you're saying about, because I suppose when people are thinking about going and working and like being a zoologist, they maybe don't think about the fact that you'll be more often, you'll be specialising in something, and you'll have the like you're working with this now and you're working with this, whereas I think sometimes we might think, I'll be in the zoo and I'll do this one day and I'll do this, whereas like you couldn't get the expertise enough to look after something properly if you were doing everything. So and I
think like people coming into it, like if you know like I want to work with tigers forever, great, aim for that, and if you don't, like kind of like what I'm doing, I just want to be as broad as possible, so then I can be like, actually love working with them, don't like them. Like I'm working with birds at the moment, didn't consider myself a huge bird. I love them now. Like they're awesome, like bird of prey, so cool. So I'm like, is this like another, I have a different avenue I can explore now. And that's like my whole aim is to just figure out what I do and don't like, and then maybe I can then go a bit narrower and find that. And I think, if you do know what you want to do, go for it. It's great. I think one thing definitely getting into zookeeping is try and volunteer as much prior. Get that experience with animals as much as possible, even if it's in like a dog shelter or you're just volunteering for a rescue centre. Like anything helps.
Well, most animal care courses or zoologic. Oh God, I couldn't say this earlier either. But like a lot of the courses that are to do with animals, you have to have the work experience, and that can be so difficult to get. So but then things like doing the keeper for the day things and stuff like that can be counted towards that as well. And exactly, definitely.
Holding a spider once, does that count? No. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm the spider catcher. That's totally,
that doesn't
important job. It's an important job.
It's a very important job. But no, listen, honestly, thank you so much, Brittney, for coming. Obviously, if you're ever in Edinburgh Zoo and you see Brittney, I'm sure she would love to talk. Because to be honest, you have light up the room. To speak to you. I really appreciate it. So this is our second episode done.
Yes.
We're starting to get into the groove of this.
Hopefully.
Which is so good. We've got episode 3 coming up.
Yes, we're really lucky. Our next episode, we're meeting with Scotland's Apprentice of the Year. So that's really exciting. So that's Louise Collins. So she'll be on our next episode. And honestly, this has been so wonderful. Like, just personally, this has been an amazing conversation. But I think everyone listening, like, it's so interesting, and so many people are so interested in working with animals, and to actually get that little insight into what it's like, it's just love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.